Dr. Melissa Chen floated through the observation deck of the Kepler research station, her magnetic boots clicking softly against the metal flooring as she moved between the instrument panels. The Earth hung below them like a blue marble suspended in velvet, its surface painted with swirling clouds that caught the light of the distant sun. After 18 months aboard the station, the sight still took her breath away. "Another beautiful day in paradise," she murmured to herself, checking the readings on the gravitational wave detector. The numbers scrolled across her screen in neat columns, each measurement adding to humanity's growing understanding of the universe's most subtle forces. The Kepler station housed 12 of Earth's brightest minds, all dedicated to pushing the boundaries of theoretical physics. Their current mission focused on detecting and analyzing gravitational waves from distant cosmic events, supernovas, black hole mergers, and other phenomena that rippled through the fabric of spacetime itself. "Dr. Chin, you need to see this." The voice belonged to Dr. James Hawthorne, the station's astrophysicist and Melissa's closest colleague. His usual calm demeanor carried an edge of excitement that made her immediately abandon her current readings. She pushed off from the observation deck's railing and glided toward the main laboratory where James stood hunched over the primary detection array. Dr. Sarah Kim, their quantum mechanics specialist, floated nearby with her dark hair fanned out around her head like a corona. "What have you found?" Melissa asked, settling into position beside them. James pointed at the display screen where a series of jagged lines danced across a grid. "We're picking up something unprecedented. Look at these gravitational wave patterns. They're not matching any known cosmic event signatures." Melissa studied the data, her trained eye immediately recognizing the anomaly. The waves showed a coherent structure unlike anything in their databases. "This doesn't look natural," she said slowly. "The frequency modulation is too precise, too organized." "That's what we thought," Sarah added, her voice barely containing her excitement. "But it gets stranger. The source appears to be moving toward us, and the intensity is increasing exponentially." A chill ran down Melissa's spine. In her 15 years of studying gravitational physics, she had never encountered anything that exhibited such purposeful behavior. "How long until it reaches us?" James consulted his calculations. "At current acceleration, approximately 47 minutes. Alert the rest of the team," Melissa ordered. "And send an emergency transmission to Earth. They need to know about this." The next hour passed in a blur of frantic activity. The station's crew worked with practiced efficiency, gathering data and running every conceivable analysis on the approaching anomaly. Dr. Pavel Volkov, their theoretical physicist, had constructed a dozen different models trying to explain the phenomenon, while Dr. Maria Santos worked furiously to establish communication protocols with Earth. "The transmission isn't getting through," Maria reported, frustration evident in her voice. "Something is interfering with our communications array." Through the observation windows, the stars began to behave strangely. Instead of their familiar steady light, they flickered and wavered as if viewed through turbulent water. The gravitational wave detector screamed warnings as the readings climbed beyond its measurement capacity. "Whatever this is, it's distorting local space-time," Pavel announced, his Russian accent thickening with anxiety. "The gravitational field strength is approaching critical levels." Melissa felt the station shudder around them, a vibration that resonated through the hull and into her bones. The emergency lights flickered on, bathing everything in harsh red illumination. "All stations, secure for unknown event," she commanded over the intercom. "Emergency protocols are now in effect." The 12 crew members strapped themselves into their emergency harnesses as the station's shuddering intensified. Through the windows, space itself seemed to be twisting, the familiar constellations stretching and warping into impossible configurations. "Melissa," James called out, his voice tight with fear and wonder. "Look at the readings. The gravitational waves, they're forming a pattern. Almost like a doorway," she finished, understanding flooding through her as she watched the data streams. The anomaly wasn't just approaching them, it was opening around them. The station lurched violently, throwing several unsecured items across the laboratory. The lights failed completely for a moment before the emergency power kicked in. When Melissa looked out the observation window again, the Earth was gone. In its place hung an alien sky filled with 3 moons and a red giant star that painted everything in shades of amber and crimson. Below them stretched a world of vast continents covered in dark forests and sprawling mountain ranges, with cities that glowed like scattered gems across the landscape. "Where are we?" Sarah whispered, her face pressed against the window. Melissa stared at the alien world, her scientific mind racing to process what had happened. The gravitational wave anomaly hadn't been a natural phenomenon, it had been a wormhole, a tunnel through space-time that had somehow transported their entire station across impossible distances. "I don't know," she replied quietly. "But we're not in the Sol system anymore." Chapter 2, First Contact. The first 48 hours after their arrival were exercise in controlled panic. The crew worked around the clock to assess their situation and establish the station's operational status. Remarkably, all systems remained functional despite their journey through the wormhole. The artificial gravity generators hummed steadily, life support maintained optimal atmospheric conditions, and their quantum computers continued processing data with their usual efficiency. Dr. Marcus Webb, their engineer, had performed a complete structural analysis and declared the station sound. "Whatever that wormhole was, it transported us without subjecting the station to significant stress," he reported during their emergency briefing. "We're intact and stable in orbit around this world." The world itself proved endlessly fascinating to observe. Their telescopic arrays revealed a planet roughly 1.2 times Earth's mass, with a complex ecosystem that supported vast forests, inland seas, and mountain ranges that dwarfed anything on their home planet. The 3 moons created a complex tidal system that painted intricate patterns across the continental coastlines. "The atmospheric composition is remarkable," announced Dr. Elena Rodriguez, their xenobiology specialist. "Nitrogen, oxygen, and trace gases in proportions that would support human life. The partial pressure indicates we could survive on the surface without pressure suits." But it was Pavel who made the discovery that changed everything. "I have been analyzing the electromagnetic signatures from the surface," he announced during their 3rd day in orbit. "There are artificial structures down there, cities, power grids, communication networks. This world is inhabited by an advanced civilization." The crew gathered around the main display as Pavel shared his findings. The surface revealed sprawling urban centers connected by transportation networks that stretched across continents. Power generation facilities dotted the landscape, and orbital debris indicated a species capable of limited spaceflight. "The technology level appears roughly equivalent to early 21st century Earth," Pavel continued, "but with some significant variations in development patterns." Dr. Rodriguez had been studying biological samples collected by their atmospheric processors. "I'm detecting complex organic compounds in the air that suggest large-scale industrial activity, but also something else. The bacterial and viral loads indicate a biosphere that co-evolved with intelligent life over millions of years." "What kind of life forms are we talking about?" Melissa asked. Elena hesitated before answering. "Based on the biological markers and comparative analysis with Earth's evolutionary patterns, I believe we're looking at humanoids, but with significant differences in size, metabolism, and possibly cognitive development." Their questions were answered dramatically on the morning of their 4th day in orbit. Melissa was reviewing gravitational data in her quarters when the station's proximity alarms began blaring. She rushed to the observation deck where James was already monitoring the approaching objects through their telescopic array. 12 vehicles," he reported tersely. "Definitely artificial, definitely piloted. They are moving in formation and appear to be heading directly for us." The vessels were unlike anything in human aerospace design. Each craft measured roughly 50 meters in length, with a broad, angular hull that seemed optimized for both atmospheric and space flight. They moved with purposeful coordination, their formations speaking of military discipline and tactical awareness. "Are they showing any hostile intentions?" Melissa asked. "Unknown," James replied. "But they're definitely scanning us." I'm reading energy signatures consistent with sensor sweeps and communication attempts. Dr. Santos had been working frantically at the communications console. I'm picking up transmission attempts on multiple frequencies. The signal structure is complex, definitely artificial intelligence, possibly even language. Can you establish contact? I'm trying to develop a translation protocol, but it will take time. The linguistic patterns are completely unlike anything in our databases. The alien vessels took up positions around the station in a perfect spherical formation, maintaining a respectful distance while clearly demonstrating their ability to surround and, if necessary, engage the human research platform. Their message was clear without words: we know you're here, and we're in control of this situation. Melissa made a command decision. Maria, transmit mathematical constants and basic scientific principles. Start with prime numbers, then move to atomic structures and physical laws. Let's establish that we're intelligent and peaceful. For the next 6 hours, they engaged in a careful dance of communication. The aliens proved remarkably sophisticated in their response, quickly grasping the mathematical concepts and responding with their own scientific data. Gradually, a basic communication protocol emerged based on shared scientific understanding. It was Dr. Kim who first cracked the linguistic code. I think I understand their number system, she announced excitedly. They're using base 8 mathematics, which explains some of the confusion in our initial exchanges. With Sarah's breakthrough, meaningful communication became possible. The aliens, who called themselves something that translated roughly as the Forgeborn, explained that they had detected the gravitational anomaly that brought the station to their world. They were, according to their messages, both curious and cautious about the sudden appearance of unknown technology in their space. A delegation, they indicated, would board the station for face-to-face contact within the next planetary day. Are we ready for this? Dr. Webb asked during their preparation meeting. I mean, are we really ready to meet an alien species? Melissa looked around at her team, 12 brilliant minds who had dedicated their lives to pushing the boundaries of human knowledge. We're scientists, she said simply. This is what we've trained for our entire careers, even if we never expected it to happen. Dr. Rodriguez had been preparing the station's quarantine protocols. I've set up isolation procedures in Bay 3. We can conduct the meeting in environmental suits if necessary, though preliminary atmospheric analysis suggests their biology may be compatible with ours. What do we know about their physical characteristics? Melissa asked. Elena consulted her biological data. Based on their technology and the engineering specifications of their spacecraft, I estimate they're larger than humans, possibly 1.5 to 2 times our mass. The atmospheric composition and gravitational field suggest they evolved in a slightly higher gravity environment than Earth. The next morning, a single alien vessel approached the station's docking bay. Through the observation windows, the crew watched as the craft's occupants prepared for contact. The tension was palpable as decades of science fiction speculation prepared to meet reality. The airlock cycled, and humanity's first contact with an alien species began with a soft hiss of equalizing pressure. Nothing could have prepared Melissa for her first sight of the Forgeborn. The alien delegation consisted of 3 individuals, each standing nearly 8 feet tall with shoulders that could have belonged to professional weightlifters. Their skin was a deep olive green that seemed to shift in hue depending on the lighting, and their faces combined features that were surprisingly familiar with others that were distinctly non-human. They had forward-facing eyes like humans, but larger and a startling amber color that seemed to hold depths of intelligence and curiosity. Their jaws were more pronounced, with small tusks that protruded just past their lips, and their ears were pointed and mobile, constantly adjusting like biological radar dishes. They wore fitted clothing that appeared to be made from a metallic fabric, with intricate patterns worked into the material that might have been decorative or functional, or both. Each carried what was clearly a communication device, though the technology was unlike anything in human experience. The leader of the delegation, identified through their body language and the deference shown by the others, stepped forward and spoke in a voice that resonated with surprising warmth despite its alien cadence. Greetings, travelers from the void between worlds. The translation device rendered in slightly stilted English. I am Corvin Ironforge, speaker for the Northern clans. We welcome you to Kazithal, though we confess puzzlement at your method of arrival. Melissa stepped forward, acutely aware that she was representing not just her crew but her entire species. Greetings, Speaker Ironforge. I am Dr. Melissa Chin, expedition leader of the Kepler Research Station. We are peaceful researchers from a world we call Earth, and we are equally puzzled by our arrival here. The translation lag was minimal, suggesting sophisticated linguistic processing capabilities. Corvin's expression, surprisingly readable despite the alien features, showed interest and what might have been amusement. You speak of confusion regarding your travel method. This suggests the wormhole was not of your creation. Correct, Melissa replied. We were conducting research in orbit around our home world when an anomaly appeared and transported us here. We had no warning and no control over the process. The other two Forge-born exchanged glances and spoke rapidly in their own language. Corvin listened, then nodded thoughtfully before addressing the humans again. My companions are Thane Stormhammer, our chief engineer, and Scholar Brightax, our specialist in what you might call theoretical physics. They express interest in your research and the circumstances of your arrival. Dr. Hawthorne stepped forward. We'd be happy to share our data, if that would be helpful. We're as eager to understand what happened as you are. Scholar Brightax spoke, her voice carrying the clear tones of academic excitement. Your gravitational detection equipment, it recorded the wormhole formation? This would be of immense value to our understanding of such phenomena. You've encountered wormholes before? Dr. Kim asked. Rarely, and never with such precision, Thane Stormhammer replied, his voice deep and resonant. The ancients spoke of such things in their texts, but we had thought them legend. The ancients? Melissa inquired. Corvin's expression grew more serious. A civilization that preceded us on Kazithal by perhaps 50,000 years. They left behind ruins and artifacts that suggest technological capabilities far beyond our current understanding. Most of their knowledge was lost in the Great Silence. Great Silence? Dr. Rodriguez asked. A period of catastrophic environmental change that nearly destroyed all life on Kazithal approximately 47,000 years ago. When our ancestors emerged from the deep caverns where they had sheltered, the ancient civilization was gone, leaving only fragments and mysteries. The crew exchanged meaningful looks. This was exactly the kind of historical and technological information that might provide clues about their predicament. We would be honored to learn more about these ancients and their technology, Melissa said diplomatically. And we're equally willing to share our own scientific knowledge and the data we collected during our journey here. An exchange of knowledge would benefit both our peoples, Corvin agreed. But first, we must address practical matters. Your station requires orbital maintenance, and your crew will need supplies. We propose to relocate your research platform to a more stable orbit around our primary moon, where our engineers can assist with any necessary repairs or modifications. Dr. Webb looked pleased at the prospect of technical assistance. That's very generous. Our systems are functioning well, but we could certainly benefit from local expertise. Additionally, Scholar Brightax added, there are ruins of an ancient facility on the third moon that might be relevant to your situation. If the wormhole technology was indeed theirs, those ruins could contain information crucial to your eventual return home. The word home hung in the air with painful weight. For all the wonder and excitement of first contact, every member of the crew felt the ache of separation from Earth, from families and loved ones who had no idea what had happened to them. We would be very interested in examining those ruins, Melissa said quietly. Getting home is our primary goal, though we're grateful for the opportunity to learn about your world and people. Of course, Corvin said with what appeared to be genuine sympathy. We understand the pull of one's birth world. Our own ancestors spoke often of the deep caverns as home, even after generations had passed on the surface. The next several hours were spent in detailed discussions about logistics, cultural protocols, and the practical aspects of extended cooperation between species. The Forge-born proved to be remarkably similar to humans in their social structures, though with some fascinating differences. Their society was organized around craft guilds and clan alliances, with leadership based on expertise and proven competence rather than hereditary or political power. Your research station will be granted sanctuary status under the Accords of Safe Harbor, Corvin explained. This means you are under the protection of all clans and may pursue your work without interference. In return, we ask only that you share knowledge freely and respect our laws and customs. That seems more than fair, Melissa agreed. What should we know about your laws and customs? Scholar Brightax produced what appeared to be a data crystal. We have prepared an information archive covering basic cultural protocols, legal frameworks, and historical context. Your translation systems should be able to process the data structures. As the formal meeting wound down, Dr. Rodriguez approached the Forge-born delegation with obvious curiosity. If I may ask, what should we call your species? Forge-born appears to be a cultural designation rather than a biological one. Perceptive, Corvin replied with approval. Our species name translates roughly as Kazathan, those who shape the world. The term Forge-born refers to our cultural identity as creators and builders. And you're all part of the same species? Elena continued. The physical variations I'm observing suggest either multiple subspecies or significant genetic diversity. The latter, Thane Stormhammer replied. Our ancestors adapted to various environments during the Great Silence. Mountain clans, forest dwellers, coastal peoples, each developed distinct characteristics while maintaining species unity. Fascinating, Elena murmured. On Earth, humans show similar patterns of adaptation, though perhaps not as pronounced. Earth, Scholar Brightax repeated thoughtfully. Your world of origin. We would very much like to learn about its characteristics and the civilization that produced such advanced gravitational research. And we'd like to learn everything we can about Kazathul and the ancients, Melissa replied. It seems we have the foundation for a very productive exchange. As the alien delegation prepared to depart, Corvin turned back to address the human crew one final time. Dr. Chen, your people show wisdom in their approach to the unknown. This suggests your civilization values knowledge and peaceful interaction. We look forward to learning much from each other. As do we, Speaker Ironforge. As do we. After the Forge-born departed, the crew gathered in the main laboratory to process what they had learned. The implications were staggering, not just the existence of alien life, but the possibility that the wormhole technology might be understandable and potentially replicable. This is incredible, Dr. Kim said, her eyes shining with excitement. An entire alien civilization with thousands of years of recorded history and access to ancient ruins that might contain the technology we need to get home. It's almost too good to be true, Dr. Webb added more cautiously. We need to be careful not to let our desperation cloud our judgment. Melissa nodded thoughtfully. Marcus is right. We approach this scientifically, systematically, and with appropriate caution. But I have to admit, for the first time since we arrived here, I'm feeling genuinely hopeful about our chances of seeing Earth again. Pavel had been reviewing the data crystal provided by the Forge-born. According to this historical archive, the ancient civilization lasted nearly 20,000 years before the Great Silence. Their technological capabilities included advanced materials science, energy manipulation, and what appears to be limited space-time engineering. Space-time engineering, Dr. Santos repeated. That could certainly include wormhole technology. We need to establish a research partnership with the Forge-born immediately, Melissa decided. Dr. Kim, I want you working with Scholar Brightax on theoretical physics. Dr. Webb, coordinate with Thane Stormhammer on technical matters. Dr. Rodriguez, begin cultural and biological exchange with their xenobiology specialists. What about the ancient ruins? James asked. That's our primary objective, Melissa replied. But we do this right. We learn their language, understand their culture, and approach the ruins as partners rather than desperate refugees. Elena looked thoughtful. There's something else to consider. The Forge-born seem remarkably accepting of our presence. In their position, would we be so welcoming to alien visitors? Good point, Melissa acknowledged. We need to understand their motivations as well as their capabilities. People, and I suspect the same applies to alien people, don't help strangers without reasons. Dr. Volkov had been quietly reviewing gravitational data. I have been analyzing the wormhole residue in local spacetime, he announced. There are traces of exotic matter interactions that suggest the phenomenon was artificially generated. If the ancients possessed such technology, there might be other installations on this world or in this system. Then we have our research agenda, Melissa concluded. Learn everything we can about the ancients, build relationships with the Forgeborn, and find a way to generate our own wormhole back to Earth. And if we can't? Dr. Santos asked quietly. Melissa looked around at her team. Brilliant, dedicated people who had risked everything for the advancement of human knowledge and found themselves stranded light years from home. Then we make the best life we can here, she said simply. But I believe we'll find a way home. We just have to be smart enough to recognize it when we do. 3 weeks after their arrival at Kazithel, the Kepler research station had been relocated to orbit around Kazithel's largest moon, Thorgrim. The new position provided stable communication with the planet's surface and access to the extensive Forge-born technical facilities that honeycombed the moon's interior. The cooperation between human and Kazathan scientists had exceeded everyone's expectations. Language barriers had virtually disappeared thanks to advanced translation protocols, and the exchange of scientific knowledge had proven mutually beneficial. The humans shared their gravitational wave detection techniques and quantum computational methods, while the Forge-born provided insights into advanced metallurgy, sustainable energy systems, and geological engineering. Dr. Kim had practically moved in with Scholar Brightak's research team, spending 14-hour days working through theoretical frameworks that bridged human and Kazathan physics. Their collaboration had already produced 3 breakthrough papers on exotic matter manipulation that would have revolutionized science on either world. The Kazathan understanding of dimensional mathematics is remarkable, Sarah reported during their weekly staff meeting. They've developed calculus systems that can model 12-dimensional space without computational aids. Brightax has been working on some of these problems for over 60 years. 60 years? Dr. Webb asked in surprise. Kazathan lifespan is roughly 150 to 200 Earth years, Dr. Rodriguez explained. Their extended lifespans allow for incredibly deep specialization. Some of their craftsmen spend centuries perfecting single techniques. Marcus had been working closely with Thane Stormhammer on station upgrades. They've helped us install improved radiation shielding and upgraded our life support systems, he reported. But more importantly, they've taught us techniques for working with crystalline matrices that store and process information at the quantum level. Information storage, Melissa noted. That could be crucial for understanding ancient technology. Pavel had spent his time in the Forge-born archives, studying records of ancient civilization and the catastrophic event known as the Great Silence. I have found references to 17 major ancient installations on Kazithel and its moons, he announced. Most were destroyed or buried during the Great Silence, but 3 remain partially intact. 3 installations, James repeated. Including the one on the 3rd moon? Correct. But I have discovered something even more interesting. The Great Silence was not a natural disaster, as previously believed. According to the deepest archives, it was the result of a massive space-time engineering experiment that went catastrophically wrong. The room fell silent as the implication sank in. A wormhole experiment? Melissa asked. Possibly. The records are fragmentary, but they describe attempts to open the great roads between worlds and bind the distant stars to Kazithel's domain. The experiment succeeded initially, but something went wrong. The resulting space-time distortions caused worldwide environmental collapse. Dr. Santos leaned forward intently. If the ancients were experimenting with interstellar wormhole networks, they might have developed exactly the technology we need to get home. Or, Dr. Webb added grimly, they might have developed technology too dangerous to use. Which is why we need to be extremely careful in our research, Melissa agreed. We're not just looking for a way home, We're potentially dealing with technology that destroyed an entire civilization. Elena had been studying Kazathan biology and culture in preparation for surface expedition work. The Forgeborn have given us clearance to visit the ancient ruins, she reported. But they require that we follow strict protocols and accept the guidance of their archaeological specialists. Archaeological specialists? Dr. Kim asked. The Deep Guard, Elena explained. A specialized caste dedicated to studying and preserving ancient sites. They've been working these ruins for over 3,000 years, longer than recorded human history. And they're willing to work with us? Melissa asked. More than willing, eager. Our gravitational wave expertise and quantum computational capabilities represent new tools for understanding ancient technology. In exchange for access to the ruins, we'll be providing technical support for their research. The preparations for the surface expedition took another week. The team would consist of 6 humans and 8 Forgeborn, with specialized equipment provided by both civilizations. They would establish a base camp at the ancient installation on Kazathel's third moon, Drumforge, where preliminary surveys had identified intact structures and functional technology. Dr. Elena Rodriguez would lead the biological and cultural assessment team, while Dr. Pavel Volkov focused on theoretical physics and engineering analysis. Melissa would coordinate overall research activities and serve as liaison with the Deep Guard. The morning of departure, Melissa stood in the station's observation deck watching the transport vessel approach. The ship was a hybrid design incorporating both human and Kazathan technology, artificial gravity systems based on human gravitational field manipulation, but constructed with Forge-born crystalline matrices and powered by their remarkably efficient fusion systems. Nervous? Dr. Hawthorne asked, joining her at the observation window. Excited, Melissa replied honestly. And yes, nervous. We're about to examine technology that might be tens of thousands of years ahead of anything either of our civilizations has developed. The Deep Guard seem confident in their safety protocols. The Deep Guard have been studying these ruins for 3 millennia without fully understanding them, Melissa pointed out. That's either a testament to their caution or evidence of how far beyond us this technology really is. The transport docked smoothly, its artificial gravity field synchronizing with the station's systems. The expedition team assembled in the main bay where their Forge-born counterparts were making final equipment checks. Deep Guard Master Ironbane was a particularly impressive example of Kazathan engineering expertise. Standing nearly 9 feet tall with arms like tree trunks, he moved with the precise economy of someone who had spent centuries working with dangerous and delicate equipment. His skin bore the ritual scarifications that marked his rank within the Deep Guard hierarchy, and his amber eyes held depths of knowledge that spoke of decades spent studying mysteries that defied comprehension. Dr. Chen, he rumbled in accented but fluent English. My team has prepared comprehensive briefings on the Drumforge installation. We will begin with the outer chambers and work inward only as safety protocols permit. What kind of dangers are we talking about? Dr. Webb asked. Unknown energy fields, unstable space-time distortions, and technology that responds to proximity in unpredictable ways, Ironbane replied matter-of-factly. The ancients built their installations to last, but not necessarily to be safe for later visitors. Dr. Rodriguez checked her biological monitoring equipment. Are there any known biological hazards? The ruins are sterile, Ironbane assured her. Whatever the ancients were, they either eliminated all microbial life in their installations or built them from materials that cannot support biological contamination. Eliminated all microbial life? Elena repeated with obvious interest. That's technologically impressive and somewhat disturbing. The ancients were impressive and disturbing in equal measure, Ironbane agreed grimly. The journey to Drumforge took 18 hours aboard the hybrid transport. The third moon was smaller than Earth's Luna but more geologically active, with vast mineral formations that jutted from its surface like crystalline forests. The ancient installation was built into the largest of these formations, its entrance marked by architectural elements that seemed to blend seamlessly with the natural crystal structures. It's beautiful, Dr. Kim breathed, staring through the transport's viewports at the installation's exterior. Beautiful and functional, Ironbane noted. The crystal matrix provides both structural support and energy distribution throughout the complex. The ancients integrated their technology with natural systems in ways we are only beginning to understand. The landing area had been prepared by previous deep guard expeditions, with atmospheric processors maintaining a breathable environment within the excavated zones. The installation's entrance was a soaring arch that rose nearly 50 feet above the moon's surface, carved from a single piece of the local crystal and inlaid with metals that had not corroded despite tens of thousands of years of exposure. "Welcome to the Deep Archives," Ironbane announced as the expedition team disembarked. "The oldest intact repository of ancient knowledge in the Kazathil system." Melissa stood before the ancient entrance, feeling the weight of history and the promise of discovery. Somewhere within these ruins lay the secrets of space-time engineering that might, if they were very careful and very lucky, provide a way home. "Let's go make history," she said quietly, and led her team into the archives of an extinct civilization. The interior of the Deep Archives defied every assumption Melissa had formed about ancient ruins. Instead of dusty corridors and crumbling stones, she found herself walking through corridors that seemed to have been abandoned yesterday. The walls glowed with soft phosphorescence that provided perfect visibility, and the air carried no trace of age or decay. "The environmental systems are still functional," Dr. Rodriguez reported, consulting her instruments with obvious amazement. "Temperature is maintained at 21 degrees Celsius, humidity at optimal levels, and the air composition is actually superior to what we're breathing in our suits." Deepguard Master Ironbane nodded approvingly. "The ancients built for permanence. These systems have operated continuously for 47,000 years without maintenance." The corridors themselves were works of art as much as engineering. The crystal walls curved gracefully, following mathematical principles that created both structural strength and aesthetic beauty. Embedded within the translucent material were patterns of metal and exotic materials that pulsed with faint energy, creating an organic rhythm that seemed almost alive. "Dr. Volkov, are you reading this?" Dr. Kim called out, her voice tight with excitement. "The energy patterns in these walls, they're processing information. The entire structure is some kind of massive computational matrix." Pavel was running every scan he could manage with their portable equipment. "The quantum field fluctuations are incredible," he reported. "This installation is not just a repository, it is an active information processing system operating at scales we can barely measure." "Processing what kind of information?" Melissa asked. "Unknown," Pavel admitted. "But the computational power represented here exceeds anything our civilization has developed by several orders of magnitude." They passed through 3 security checkpoints, each one scanning the expedition team with energies that their instruments could detect but not identify. The Deep Guard moved through these procedures with practiced ease, while the human members of the team tried not to think too hard about what the ancient sensors might be learning about their biology and technology. "The security systems are not hostile," Ironbane assured them after noticing their discomfort. "They appear to be archival in nature, recording and cataloging visitors rather than evaluating threats." "How many visitors have they recorded over the years?" Dr. Santos asked. "According to our research, approximately 847 Kazathan individuals have been granted access to the Deep Archives since the Deep Guard was founded. You represent the first non-Kazathan entries in their catalog." The thought of being added to an alien database that had been operating since before human civilization was both thrilling and unsettling. The main archive chamber took Melissa's breath away. The space was vast, easily 100 meters in diameter and twice that in height, with crystalline formations rising from floor to ceiling like frozen waterfalls. Each formation pulsed with information, patterns of light racing through the translucent material in streams that carried meaning beyond their comprehension. Each crystal formation contains approximately 10 to the power of 15 data units, Ironbane explained. The entire chamber represents more information storage than your entire human civilization has generated throughout its history. "What kind of information?" Dr. Webb asked, his engineer's mind clearly struggling to process the scale of what they were seeing. "Everything," Ironbane replied simply. "Scientific data, historical records, technical specifications, cultural archives, and what appear to be complete records of other civilizations throughout the galaxy. Other civilizations? Melissa repeated, her heart racing. The ancients were not limited to this system, Ironbane explained. Their records indicate contact with dozens of species across thousands of light years. You are not the first travelers to arrive here through artificial wormhole technology. The implications were staggering. If the ancients had been in contact with galactic civilization, the archives might contain information about dozens of different approaches to space-time engineering and interstellar travel. Have you been able to access any of this information? Dr. Kim asked. Limited portions, Ironbane admitted. The interface systems require cognitive patterns that do not match Kazathan neural architecture. We have managed to access perhaps 0.1% of the total archive contents. But human cognitive patterns might be different enough to access additional information? Melissa suggested. It is our hope, Ironbane agreed. The ancient interface systems appear to have been designed for multiple species compatibility. Dr. Volkov was studying the energy patterns flowing through the crystal formations. These information streams, they are not randomly distributed. I am detecting organized data flows that suggest active search and retrieval processes. The archives are responding to our presence, Ironbane confirmed. Since your arrival, the activity levels have increased dramatically. The system appears to be preparing information relevant to your situation. Information about wormhole travel? Melissa asked hopefully. We shall discover soon. The interface chamber lies deeper within the installation. They descended through levels that became progressively more complex and alien. The architectural style shifted from elegant curves to geometric patterns that seemed to follow mathematical principles beyond human understanding. The walls here were covered with inscriptions in multiple languages, none of which matched any known writing system. Linguistic archives, Dr. Santos identified, recording everything with her translation equipment. These are dictionaries or translation matrices for different alien languages. How many languages are represented here? Elena asked. I am counting symbol sets for at least 47 different writing systems, Maria replied. Possibly more. Some of these appear to be mathematical or scientific notation rather than spoken language. The interface chamber was smaller than the main archives but no less impressive. The central feature was a crystalline platform surrounded by holographic displays that activated as the expedition team approached. The displays showed star maps, technical diagrams, and flowing text in languages that shifted and changed as they watched. The system is attempting to establish communication protocols, Ironbane explained. It has identified you as representatives of a previously unknown species and is searching its databases for appropriate interface methods. Dr. Kim stepped forward, studying the holographic displays with obvious fascination. This is incredible. It's analyzing our translation equipment and attempting to create customized interfaces for human cognitive patterns. Is it safe? Dr. Webb asked cautiously. The Deep Guard has interacted with these systems for 3 millennia without incident, Ironbane assured him. The ancients appear to have designed their technology to be helpful rather than harmful to intelligent life. Appears to have designed, Dr. Rodriguez noted. But we don't really know their intentions or the full capabilities of this technology. Which is why we proceed carefully, Melissa agreed. Sarah, can you establish basic communication with the system? Start with mathematical concepts and work toward more complex interactions. Dr. Kim approached the central platform, her portable quantum computer interfacing with the ancient displays through wireless protocols that both civilizations were still struggling to understand. The response was immediate and dramatic. The holographic displays exploded into complex patterns of information that made their previous activity seem slow and simple. I'm in, Sarah announced, her voice tight with concentration. The system is downloading translation protocols and searching for information relevant to our situation. What kind of information? Pavel asked. Wormhole technology, interstellar travel methods, and oh my God, Melissa, you need to see this. The central display shifted to show a three-dimensional map of local galactic space with travel routes marked between star systems. Earth's location was highlighted with pulsing indicators that suggested the system had identified their point of origin. "It knows where we came from," Dr. Santos whispered. "More than that," Sarah replied, her hands flying over her interface controls. "It's showing me 17 different methods for artificial wormhole generation, including the specific technique that brought us here." "Can we replicate it?" Melissa asked, hardly daring to hope. "The theory is here," Sarah confirmed. "But the technology requirements are significant. We would need exotic matter in quantities that neither our civilization nor the Forge-born currently possess." "What about the ancients?" Dr. Webb asked. "Did they leave behind the technology we would need?" Sarah's expression grew troubled as she reviewed the information flowing across the displays. "They did. But there's a problem. According to these records, every civilization that has successfully implemented large-scale wormhole technology has eventually suffered catastrophic failure." "The Great Silence," Ironbane said grimly. "Not just the Great Silence," Sarah corrected. "The archives contain records of 14 different civilizations that developed interstellar wormhole networks. All of them experienced what the records call cascade failures, chain reactions that destabilized local spacetime and resulted in the collapse of their civilizations." The interface chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The technology they needed to get home existed and was available to them, but using it might doom both human and Kazathan civilizations to the same fate that had befallen the ancients. "What about smaller-scale applications?" Melissa asked. "Single-use wormholes designed specifically for our return journey?" Sarah consulted the ancient databases. "Possible, but still dangerous. Even small-scale wormhole generation requires careful manipulation of spacetime that could have unexpected consequences. Nevertheless," Pavel said thoughtfully, "it represents our best chance of returning home. We must study these records carefully and determine whether the risks can be minimized." "Agreed," Melissa decided. "But we proceed with extreme caution. The last thing we want is to solve our problem by creating a much larger one." Dr. Rodriguez had been studying the biological data in the archives. "There's something else we should consider," she announced. "According to these records, several species successfully developed interstellar travel without wormhole technology. Slower methods, but safer." "How much slower?" Dr. Santos asked. "Generation ships, suspended animation, or life extension technologies that allow for centuries-long journeys," Elena replied. "Not ideal, but potentially viable alternatives." Ironbane had been consulting with his Deep Guard colleagues. "We propose a comprehensive research program," he announced. "The archives contain enough information to keep both our civilizations busy for centuries. We suggest establishing a permanent research facility here and approaching the wormhole technology question with appropriate care." "A permanent facility," Melissa repeated thoughtfully. "You're talking about a long-term commitment. The knowledge here could advance both our civilizations by thousands of years," Ironbane pointed out. "Even if we never successfully create a wormhole home for your people, the benefits would be enormous." Melissa looked around at her team, seeing the conflict between their desire to return home and their recognition of the incredible opportunity they had discovered. As scientists, they understood the value of the ancient archives. As humans, they longed for Earth and the lives they had left behind. "We'll establish the research facility," she decided. "And we'll study the wormhole technology carefully. But we won't attempt any practical applications until we're absolutely certain we understand the risks." "And if we determine the risks are too great?" Dr. Webb asked. "Then we explore the alternatives," Melissa replied. "But we keep working. One way or another, we're going to find a way home." As the expedition team prepared to establish their research base within the ancient installation, Melissa allowed herself a moment of hope. They had found the knowledge they needed and allied themselves with a civilization capable of helping them apply it. The path home might be long and uncertain, but for the first time since their arrival at Kazathul, it seemed genuinely possible. The deep archives hummed around them, 47,000 years of accumulated knowledge waiting to be unlocked. Somewhere in that vast store of information lay the key to their return, if they were wise enough to find it and careful enough to use it safely.